Hey guys, welcome back. We're going to continue where we left off. So we're going to finish the basic JavaScript curriculum of freeCodeCamp. Okay, let's get started right away. So in this one, we're going to learn how to iterate with JavaScript using while loops. Okay, so this is an example of a while loop right here. There's an array declared, an empty array. Then there's a variable I. Then we start the condition of the while loop, which is as long as I is smaller than 5, we push the number I to the array, and then we increment so that we make sure that we reach I equals to 5 so that the while loop can stop. Okay, so we need to do something similar for the exercise. We need to add the numbers 5 through 0 inclusive. So we need to add 0 and 5 as well in descending order to my array using a while loop. Okay, so let's get started right away. I'm going to declare a variable I again, which I'm going to start at 5. Okay, so now I'm going to write a while loop while I is larger or equal to 0 because I want to include 0 as well. And now what I want to do here is my array dot push, and I'm going to push the I. So we start at 5, and to make sure that the loop ends somehow, we need to decrement I. So I minus minus. So in this case, we push 5 first, then I becomes 4. We go and push 4 until we go to 0, we push 0. When I then becomes -1, then this condition is not fulfilled anymore, so the while loop stops. Okay, so let's try to run this. This should do it. Okay, perfect. Let's continue. Now we're going to use for loops. So we have an initial, in a for loop we have something like this, an initialization, a condition, and the final expression. Okay, so here is an example of a for loop. Pretty straightforward. Let's do the exercise. Okay, so we need to use the for loop to push the values 1 through 5 onto my array. Okay, let's do this. I'm going to create a for loop right here. I'm going to initialize I var I equal to, since we want the numbers from 1 through 5. Okay, I'm going to start I at 1. I'm going to make I smaller than 6 so that we get 5, and then I plus plus. Okay, now let's do this. My array a dot push I. Oh, sorry, we need semicolons here. Okay, let's run this. Perfect. Now, later. Okay, we need to iterate odd numbers with a for loop. Push the odd numbers from 1 through 9 to my array using a for loop. So what we can do in this case is declare, let's make a for loop. So var I, we want the odd numbers from 1 through 9. So let's start I at 1. We want I smaller than 10, of course. And now we can increment I by 2. So that we start with 1, we get 3, 5, 7, and 9. And when it reaches 11, it doesn't fulfill this condition anymore. Okay, so let's do this. My array dot push I. Okay, this should do it. Okay, great. Let's go on. Now we need to count backwards with the for loop. We need to push the odd numbers from 9 through 1 using for loop. Okay, we do the reverse. So for var I equal to, let's start this at 9. Then I'm going to make sure I is bigger than 0, so we get 1. And I'm going to decrement I by 2. Okay, so my array.push I. Okay, this one should do it. Let's see. Okay, it's done. Let's go on. Now I need to iterate through an array with the for loop. Okay, we need to declare and initialize a variable total to be 0, and we need to use the for loop to add the value of each element of the my array to the total. Okay, this is pretty straightforward. So we need to iterate. So we're going to use I as an index. We start from 0, of course. I needs to be smaller than array.length and I plus plus. But we need to store the total to okay, let's make this below the line that this is as the program suggests. I'm going to declare first the total. It's going to be 0, and now I'm going to do total dot total plus I. So I'm going to increment total with I on each iteration of this loop. Okay, this should do it. Okay, just a second. Not I, sorry. My array, because we want that element of the array. Okay. There's something wrong here. Let's console log total. Let's see what this does. This is the error. Okay. Okay, perfect. And now we're going to nest for loop. So we're going to write a for loop inside another for loop. Okay, we need to modify the function multiply all so that it multiplies the product variable by each number in the subarrays of R. Okay, so we will have something like this. Okay. So let's see the example here. We have this nested array. We iterate the array. So for each we get this one, and then we multiply. Okay, so we need to modify we need to multiply this by each number. Okay, so basically we just need to multiply each number in the subarrays of R. Okay, so first we need to access all of those, so we need to write two nested for loops. So first for var I equal to 0, I smaller than r dot length, and I plus plus. Okay, so inside this one we need to iterate through ri, so one of these. So first we're going to iterate through these, and then this, and then this. Okay, so for var j equal to 0, and then j is smaller than ri dot length and j plus plus. Okay, so now we need product to be multiplied to this ij. So we make sure that we go through each element in the subarray so that we multiply them all. Okay, let's run this. Okay, great. Now we're going to use the do while loop. Okay, because first it will do one pass of the code inside the loop no matter what, and then continue to run the loop while. Okay, so first we execute this do. Okay, and let's see what we have to do in our example. So we need to change the while loop in the code to a do while loop so that the loop will push only the number 10 to the array and I will be equal to 11 when your code has finished running. Okay, let's see the example here. Let's add a do. So do and my array dot push I. So we want to change the while loop so that the loop will push only the number 10 to the array and I will be equal to 11 when your code has finished running. Okay, let's push I right here and we can do I plus plus right here. Okay, so we push 10 and we increment I by 1, it is 11, and then it will never run this while here because it doesn't fulfill the condition. 11 is not smaller than 5. Okay, let's see if this does it. I should equal 11. Okay. 2, we are pushing I, we are incrementing, and then let's see how I changes here. Okay, so okay, so okay, so when we yeah, okay, we left the body of the while loop here. I just need it right here. So we need the body of the while loop should be inside the do here, and then we leave this while condition right here. So this one prints 11. Let's remove this and see. Okay, great. Now we are going to use recursion. So that recursion is this concept that a function can be expressed in terms of itself. So let's see this example. We need to multiply the first n elements of an array to create the product of those elements. And using a for loop, you could do this. So multiply, we get an array, and then n product is equal to 1. Okay, we iterate through the array, and then we multiply all the elements. But we can use this. Multiply array n is equals to multiply array n minus 1 times array n minus 1. That means that you can rewrite the multiply in terms of itself and never need to use a loop. Okay, let's see how this does it. Okay, so in this case we are calling the function is calling itself, so that it is executing the multiply, but now with an array with n minus 1, the first n minus 1 elements. Okay, so and then we multiply it by the last element, and then this one we will go to call itself, and then and so on until we have a calculation that we can perform. Okay, we need to write a recursive function for the sum right now, so that it returns the sum of the first n elements of an array R. Okay, now we're going to do something similar. So if n smaller than or equal to 0, so that means if we have no elements in the array, so if we don't want to if we put n 0, it means that we don't want the sum of any elements, so we just return 0 in this case, and then else we need to return the sum of array n minus 1 plus array n minus 1, because this one will give us the last element, and this one will go and compute the sum of all the other all the n minus 1 first elements, and this will compute this will be the nth element, and then this one is going to call itself, and so on. Okay, let's see this. Okay, great. Now let's see what profile lookup is. We have an array of objects representing different people in our contacts list. Lookup profile function that takes name and the property prop as arguments has been pre-written. Okay, let's see. Okay, this one should check if the name is an actual contact's first name, and that the given property is a property of that contact, because as you can see, contacts is an array of objects. Okay, we have an array of objects. So now the function should check if name is an actual contact's first name, and the given property is a property of that function. Okay. Let's see. So we need to check first if any of the objects in this array has the name has this first name right here. So this name should be one of the first names in the list. Okay, let's do this. Okay, let's continue. Now let's see. So we need first to check every element in this array. So let's iterate through the array with a for loop for var I equals to 0. Now I'm going to make this a bit bigger for the code. As long as I is smaller than lookup, so the contacts pick length dot length I++. Okay, so now we can access every object using contacts.I, and we can check if the first name. Okay, now we need to make an if condition here. So if contacts I, and we need to access the first name. So first name is equals to the name. Okay, and we also need to check that this contact I has a property with this name prop. Okay, so we need to have an and here, and contacts I has own property. Okay, and let's give it prop. Okay, so if it fulfills these two conditions, what we need to return the value of that property. Okay, we need to return contacts I and prop. Okay, so this one fulfills our first condition. This one does the first requirement. Okay, now if name does not correspond to any contacts, then return no such contacts. Okay, so if we go through this, okay, so let's write this. We need to check now. So now we want only the cases when contacts, if prop does not correspond. Let's do this. This is much easier. Or maybe we can make a nested if here, but maybe the else if is also fine. So if it does not correspond to any valid properties, okay. So maybe we can split this if condition here. Let's see. So we need to iterate through all the elements, and then we need to check if name. Okay, so maybe as I said, we need to it's better if we nest these if conditions. So let's do this. Let's end this if condition here. I'm going to, and then I'm going to start another one. So in here, I'm going to start another if let's see if this matches. Okay, and this one matches with this one. but we need another one here to end. Okay, so I just split, I am not using end anymore, so I'm checking if this condition is equal to the name, and then I'm checking if it has a property, and then I'm returning contacts, that value for that property. Okay, and now else here, so this will cover the case where it doesn't have that property name. If name does not correspond to any contact. Okay. Okay. So in this case, we are finding only so let's see, in this case we should return no such property, and then outside the for loop, no such contact. Let's run this. Okay, let's go through this line by line again. So first we are iterating through all the contacts. Maybe it's better if we do something like this. Contacts I. Okay, so we don't have to do this. Okay, so now contact. Okay, so contact will always have with the object which is iterating through the array. Okay, now if contact first name is equal to name, and then if the given property of that exists, the prop exists, then we need to return that. Okay, that works. If name does not correspond to any contact, then return no such contact. So that means that, and if the prop does not correspond to any valid properties of a contact found to match name, then return no such property. Okay, contact as zone, then we check if it has the property. If it doesn't have the property, then we return no such property. And after the for loop finishes, we can return no such contact because we didn't make any match right here. Let's test this. Why does this Bob number? Let's see. The problem is right here. Okay, perfect. It was just the return message that was the issue. Okay, we need to generate random fractions using JavaScript. Okay, JavaScript has a math.random, which generates a random decimal between 0 inclusive and not quite up to 1 exclusive. Okay, math.random can return a 0 but never quite return a 1. Like storing values with equal all functions calls should be resolved before the return executes it. Okay, we need to change the random function to return a random number instead of returning 0. Let's return math.random. Let's see if this does it. Okay, that does it. Generate random whole numbers with JavaScript. Okay, since math.random generated a random decimal, we can multiply that random decimal by 20 and use another function floor to round the number so that we get a number between 0 and 19. Okay. Now we need to use the same technique to generate a random whole number between 0 and 9. Okay. So math.random times 9 will give us numbers between 0 and 9, but we want integers in this case. So we're going to use the floor function. Floor, and let's do this here. Let's run this. Random whole number, generate a return a random. Okay. My typing. Okay. We should make it 10. Okay. Now we need to generate a random whole number within a range. Okay. We can use we can do a trick like this to add the minimum. Okay. We take a range which is my min and my max which is my max and return a random number that's greater than or equal to my min and then less than or equal to my max. Okay, so we will do something like this. So math.random times this will be multiplied to my max minus my min plus 1. Okay, and then we want to put all of this inside a floor function so it is rounded, and we need to add the min. Let's run this. Okay, great. The parse int function parses a string and returns an integer. Okay, so for this example it returns 7. Okay, we need to use parse int in the convert to integer function so that it converts the input string into an integer and returns it. So we can use return parse int, get the string here. Let's see if this works. Okay, great. Now we need to use the parsing function. Okay, with a red eye. Okay, use parsing in the convert to integer function so it converts a binary number to an integer and returns it. Okay. so we can give the base to the parsing function. Let's return parse int, and I'm going to give a string right here, and we're going to give it the base 2 because we want binary. Okay, perfect. The ternary operator, or the conditional operator. So we can write a one-line if-else expression. Okay, so condition, statement if true, and statement if false. So we can write something like this. Okay. We need to write the conditional operator in the check equal function to check if two numbers are equal or not. It should return either equal or not equal. Okay, so return a. This is the condition. This is the true statement now. And this is the false. Not equal. Let's try this. What is missing here? We need to check if they are equal, sorry. I did the exact same. Okay, great. We can use multiple ternary operators. Okay. And then this one. So we can replace else ifs. Okay. This makes it harder to read though, okay. We need to make this check sign function to check if a number is positive, negative, or 0. Okay. So return. Now first we check num is larger than 0. This should return positive. Then we check if num is equal to 0. This should give us okay, we need to write again. This should give us 0, and then the else should give us negative. Let's run this. Okay, great. We need to use recursion to create a countdown. Okay. So we learned how to use recursion. Let's look at a more complex function. Okay, there needs to be a base case, of course. Okay, recursive call, a function that returns an array containing numbers from 1 through n. Okay. So this is an example of count up. We need to do the opposite. So if n is equal to is smaller than 1, we return an empty array. Okay. And then this is a recursive call. Okay. Okay, we have defined the function. The function should use recursion based on the n parameter. If the function is called with a number less than 1, function should return an empty array. Okay. Okay, let's write first the base case. Let's remove this. So if n is 1, then of course we need to return an empty array. And then if else, then we can do count array. So let's do the same. Count array is going to be count down for n. Okay. Okay, so in this case, this is happening in reverse. And then we are pushing to the n. Okay. We can do this like this. We're just going to change one small thing here. So count array dot push, and we're going to push okay. Let's see what this does. Okay, console.log count down 5. Okay, so we want the reverse. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this was the exact thing. Now, of course, we need to do something. Okay, so we start from the last element. So we should start from n. Okay, now we want to push the rest of the countdown, and we're going to use the recursion for that. So count down for n minus 1. Okay. Why isn't this? So we want to push inside the count array. Okay. In count array, push this. So what happens here? This is really interesting. Maybe we can do. Oh yeah, no, so about that. So let's see. This is quite interesting. Um, hmm. So we are trying to push at the end of the array, but maybe we can try to. Okay, let's try something else. Count down. And here I'm going to unshift. Oh, okay. So we're adding. So with unshift, we're adding at the front. Okay, so we're calling countdown again, and then adding 5 at the front, and then countdown 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Okay, this one does it. Okay. Great. Now we need to write a recursion to create a range of numbers. Okay. We have defined a function which, with 2 parameters, should return an array of integers which begins with a number represented by startNum parameter and ends with a number represented by the endNum parameter. So the starting number will always be less than or equal to the ending number. Okay, we need to use recursion, no loops. Okay. Okay, so let's think of the base case right here. Okay, so the base case we need to think about is that when we so we have 2 numbers, the start number and the end number. Okay, so the base case should be when we should return only start number and end number. Okay, so when would that happen? If they are consecutive numbers, so if start num okay, so if it so this should be the actually the base case. If they are the same number, we should just return start number. Okay, let's make a console log here so we check every time when what we get. Range of numbers for 5. get nothing. If I give 4, 4, okay. Now, else we should have an array. It's going to be an empty array. Okay. Now we should do something similar to what we did in the countdown. So let's see. Okay, so we should do something like maybe this one should have a recursive call. So for range of numbers, and let's say start num plus 1 and num. Okay, and then we need to append or prepend to the start. So my array dot unshift start num. Okay, so what this does is that we maybe we need something like this here. And we need to return my array. Let's see if this works. Okay, this seems to work. Perfect. So this is our base case when they are the two numbers are equal, and we just return the start number, and else we make this recursive call to increase the start number until by 1, and then we just add that start number using unshift at the beginning of the array. Let's see if this works. Okay, perfect. Also, we are finished with basic JavaScript. So in the next video, we're going to continue with freeCodeCamp curriculum. Thank you for watching. Try to solve this on your own. These recursion ones were a bit more tricky. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching, guys. Okay, bye bye.